First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not splitting my inheritance with my step family? Female 21. I've had a pretty horrible childhood. My dad was a junkie when I was born. And when I was 3, he just packed up and left my mom and me. My older half-sister, different dads, was not a pleasant person to be around, and my mom was so busy working that I felt that I was really alone. When my mom died in 2011, my grandma took me in and things got a lot better. Don't get me wrong, I miss my mom every day, but my grandma provided a much healthier environment for me. My dad contacted my grandma in 2018 because he wanted to get in touch with me, but I shut that down. I wouldn't even see him, wouldn't talk to him or anything. Well, it turns out that he had turned his life around, gotten married and had a whole new family, but never had any other kids. He wanted to get to know me because he found out he had a stage 5 pancreatic cancer, but I didn't want anything to do with him. I never contacted him back. Long story short, he died 6 months ago. I only found out recently because my stepmother contacted me about inheritance. My dad had left everything to me. It's not a life-changing amount, and by not a life-changing amount, I mean that I'm still on the same track I was about. I'm still going in college for the same degree, just debt-free. I'm still planning on buying the same house and investment properties, just with smaller loans. It will improve my life so much, but I'm still going to work and do the same thing I was going to do before. But he made me beneficiary of his life insurance, $100,000. Left me savings, $35,000. And his house, which in this market I could sell for around $400,000. I mean, with this money I could have college paid for, buy a house and some investment properties, and still have a nice nest egg to fall back on in case of hard times. She gave me the contact information for the lawyer handling this estate. The problem is that his wife hadn't ever planned on working again. She had quit her job when she moved in with my dad and hasn't worked in 6 years. She was telling me that it would be wrong to keep all of the money, especially since I never made up with him, and that I needed to split it 4 ways so that she and my siblings could have an equal share. I told her she could pound sand because he abandoned me for years and she got all the best parts of my dad, and all I got was the inheritance, and I hung up. I contacted a lawyer and everything is cut and dry. He left his wife and stepkids $100 each and left everything else to me, but I'm starting to feel bad for his wife. Would I be the a-hole if I did split the money? I mean, my dad never did anything for me, so this last grand gesture is really all I have. Edit. They're living in the house and she's not on the title. I'm planning on hiring a property management company and writing up an official lease. I don't want to make them homeless, and I'm not planning on selling the house right away. But I don't want to make any mistakes and lose the house by having her live in it. Thus, the property management company. I'm going to talk to my grandma on my dad's side and see if I can figure out why my dad left his other family out of the will. Now, for the top comments before reading the poster's little update. Not the a-hole. You don't know his wife. You don't owe her anything. If your father left them each $100, he knew what he was doing. That inheritance is yours. Good luck in your future. He left those tiny amounts so they'd never be able to contest the will. He knew what he was doing and did it on purpose. You owe them nothing. Not the a-hole. 100% not the a-hole. Your dad made the decision to leave absolutely everything to you, so he clearly felt you deserved it, / needed it, and they didn't. Feels to me like he was thinking along the same lines as you, realizing he'd shortchanged you on a relationship, so all he could do was leave you an inheritance. Keep the money. It's what your dad wanted. I agree. He probably saw that step family expected the money and realized he lost his relationship, so he probably tried to put in one last good word to Opie so that he wouldn't seem as horrible. They probably deserved getting 100 each. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. I'm telling you right now, those people will most likely destroy that house. Protect yourself from that in the lease you are writing up. Yeah, I agree that there's a risk of retaliation under the circumstances that is likely not worth it to Opie. I know Opie doesn't want them to be homeless, and they won't be. They'll just live in a different home. That's not Opie's. And now for the update. Okay, wow, I just got off the phone with my grandma. I messaged her on Facebook and she gave me her number. I called her during my break. Apparently, my grandma hates my stepmom. I mean, I don't even know where to start. So I guess my dad wanted to reach out to me a lot sooner than he did, but his wife kept on convincing him not to, because she was saying if he got in touch with anyone from his junkie days, he would relapse. On top of that, they never actually got married. They had a ceremony 6 years ago, but they didn't sign any marriage license because they thought my mom was still alive and that he was married to my mom. She didn't want him to reach out for a divorce because, again, he might have relapsed. And the nail in the coffin, she was almost certainly cheating on him. I don't want to get into all the drama about that whole thing, but the only reason he didn't throw her out is because she got rid of the proof and didn't have any way to confirm it was more the next thing for years. Basically, it was a dysfunctional marriage, and by the end of everything, he didn't have the energy to deal with her, so he just let her be. Personally, what I think is that she never wanted me to be part of their perfect family. If he had reached out to my mom for a divorce, then he'd probably want to reach out to me too. Like I said, I wasn't super privy to information about his life until recently. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help support my brother's family despite that I stole their inheritance? I, 26 male, have been with my girlfriend, 24 female, for 10 years, and we have a 6-year-old son. My parents died when I was young, so my brother, 50 male, we were born far apart, was the one who primarily raised me. My brother was an extremely intelligent man, so he did well in life and was extremely well off. Not a billionaire or anything like that, but still wealthy. A few months ago, my brother passed away. He had an ex-girlfriend, 40 female, they broke up a few years ago, and 3 children, 21 female, 20 female, and a 19 female. I don't know why exactly, but he always disdained his immediate family, not counting me obviously, and before he died, disinherited his 3 children from his will. My brother also had a girlfriend, 25 female, and she was pregnant when he passed away. His unborn child didn't get anything since he wasn't born at the time of his death. Yesterday, my brother's girlfriend, the young one, contacted me asking if I could help support her and her newborn son with some of the inheritance. I thought about it for a few minutes, but ended up telling her no. She accused me of being selfish and went off about how I stole her children and my brother's daughter's money until I hung up. I can see where she's coming from, but I generally don't understand how she and her child are my responsibility. Am I the a-hole? Your brother sounds like he was a major douche. His first 3 kids are grown. However, his new baby on the way is going to have a much harder than necessary life due to your brother's choices. No a-hole's here if you want to hold on to that inheritance. However, that baby is the biggest victim in all of this. Not to mention, the brother's oldest child, 21, was born when he was 29, and his wife was 19, and his new girlfriend was 25 years younger than him. You're the a-hole. While legally you may not have to do anything for this infant child of your brother and his extremely young girlfriend, morally it would be right to share the money with his minor children. Your brother also sounds like an a-hole, but is dead, so I guess he can be granted his status posthumously. You're the a-hole. She's still pregnant. He probably didn't even have any time to change his will yet. Here's what's going to happen next if the girlfriend is smart. She's going to hire a lawyer who will sue the estate. See, wills are funny. You can explicitly exclude someone, but if there is a reasonable grounds to assume someone was mistakenly not included, like an unborn child for example, then the court has the power to modify the will. That kiddo's gonna get half of their father's estate, and you're a terrible person for wanting to leave the mother of your brother's unborn child destitute. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not funding my sick brother's medical treatment? I know the title sounds bad, but hear me out. I, 27 female, have never been particularly close to my family. My parents, 62 female and 63 male, had always been partial towards my brother Nathan while growing up because he was their sole true heir, and I was like this unlucky pig they got off a claw machine they'd played for a second son. I come from a staunch Christian family that strictly believed in set gender roles while growing up, so much so that I'd be getting knitting needles for Christmas when I was 7, while Natty got 3 to 5 expensive toys that he'd asked for that year. I hated going to church groups and Sunday schools and eventually turned out to be an atheist, much to the chagrin of my parents. I funded my own college and further studies with a loan I'm still repaying to this day, while they had separate college funds for their blue-eyed boy. My father never approved of my career choices because a homely woman is a graceful woman, and he always thought I was silly to pursue a career in science. I'm a physicist, because women aren't good at numbers. I'm terrified of failing at anything in life because I know that'll reinstate their faith in my stupidity. I went no contact with their lot 2 years back when they tried to pressure me to marry a random man from our hometown because apparently he could recommend my brother, 31 male, to a job position he was vying for while trying to package it as, "Okay, lassie, you had your little fun and games, now it's time to settle down and be a responsible adult." Then on, I've talked to my mom over the phone a couple of times during the holidays, but that was about it. Last month, my mother rang to tell me that my brother has been diagnosed with leukemia and they need me to fund his medical care. I had started saving up for a house, and she told me she knows about my little nest egg, but I do not need it because some man will provide for me eventually. I flat out refused and told her they could get themselves a loan if they're so hard in cash. But this tiny lump sum has taken me almost 4 years together, and I can't jeopardize my future for this. Since then, I'm getting calls and texts from most of my extended family telling me how much of a selfish a-hole I am, how it's my duty to my brother and my family to stand beside them. My father yelled at me over the phone, calling me an ungrateful little witch who abandoned them at the mere sight of greener shores. I'm having second thoughts as to if I really am quite a gigantic prick for not footing my brother's medical bills since I have the money for it. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I know I haven't mentioned as much about my brother here as I should have, and I apologize for that. As I mentioned in my comments, he was a bully growing up, aided by the disinterest from my parents who always chose to look the other way. But as an adult, he actually made an effort to mend his relationship with me. We don't speak a lot, but I do talk to my brother way more than I do to my parents. I'm quite apprehensive of the kind of medical assistance he's going to get in these times, and I'm prepared to help out whichever way I can bearing the money. I, as a person, am excessively insecure and paranoid about my future money situations, and I don't think I can put that up for a toss for anything at all. Certain points to clear this off further. 1. My mother knows about my savings from my brother, who knows how much I craved having a place of my own, and because I've quite often discussed how excited I am when I eventually will. He once jokingly called me a control freak, which maybe I am a little, because I do want to have a place where I can do things my way without being judged or controlled. 2. My brother has been out of his job for close to 3 years now. I'm from the UK, so we do have NHS, but I'm not sure if it covers aftercare. My parents didn't provide a breakup for the money they need. They automatically assumed all of the family would chip in with whatever hard cash they could spare. And that includes my life savings, because of course, how can anyone prioritize a tiny loft over her brother's life? 3. I do think my brother expects complete submission of my assets to his healthcare because he hasn't spoken to me since my mother's phone call. He had admitted previously that he'd treated me badly growing up, but I don't think he considers himself treated better than he deserved by my parents, just that I was mistreated. At this point, misogyny is so deeply ingrained in him, especially since he's always gotten to be on the fatter side of it. I don't think I could change his perspective. My parents mingle in a circle of people with similar outlooks, and they've never tried to hide in public their strict Christian upbringing of their children, where girls are taught to be docile and unquestioning. Now for the top comments. If they're so Christian, then they can all empty their life savings to help him instead of asking you. Who knows? Maybe all he needs is someone to pray the leukemia away. Thoughts and prayers. Not a-hole. Your family sounds like someone has created a misogynist cartoon show. Women aren't good at numbers. I was half expecting a joke about the physics of sandwiches. Regardless, it's your money, so your choice. It's as simple as that. Thank you. I'm sick and tired of hearing that stupid outdated crap all the time. Just tell them surely with their collective power how much money they would all be able to raise if they sold their houses. Not a-hole. It's sad about your brother and your family, but this is your future nest egg. In a traditional household, doesn't the son usually inherit the most anyway? So they can give him his inheritance early if needs be. This is not on you. My parents are unashamedly house-proud, so I doubt they'd go to the mortgage route. I'll pass along the early inheritance proposal surely, though, as soon as they start speaking to me again. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for selling my daughter's car and putting the money towards her best friend's education? My daughter Sarah was suffering from a chronic condition. She suffered a lot of and missed out on a lot of things. As her only parent, her dad's deceased, I had to work hard to ensure she was happy and as healthy as possible. She had one best friend that she always called her sister, and she was with her during middle school. Quickly became close, and Sarah's friend was constantly there, in the good and in the bad. She did Sarah's homework, cleaned her room for her, even cooked for us when we got from the hospital in the evening. I knew Sarah's friend was the sister she needed. They have a lot of pictures together. After Sarah's funeral, her best friend asked me to help her hang their pictures on the wall. It got to me because although it was hard, but it brought me joy. It felt like Sarah's friend was like a member of the family. Sarah was 17 when she passed away. Last month would have been her 18th birthday. No one showed up, although I got on the phone with my brother and we both cried. Sarah's friend made a cake and brought a photo album she made herself. It was simple, but it was wholesome. I just sold the car I was planning on gifting to Sarah on her 18th birthday. And I contacted Sarah's friend's parents and gave them the $8,000 as my contribution towards her education. They were thankful for it and very appreciative. Yesterday, my brother mentioned not seeing the car, so I told him that I sold it and what I did with the money. And he started throwing a tantrum, saying I shouldn't have done it, and said that I'm not thinking rationally and acting out of emotions because he thought that the car was going to my younger brother, who walks 30 minutes to university and work every day. He said I should have thought of my brother and that he was struggling. We got into an argument and I couldn't do it anymore. My mother agreed that I shouldn't have done it and that my brother was right. I felt bad and I couldn't talk to him after this argument. Not at a-hole. Looking at it from the most brutal angle, I can come up with, on short notice, you still, by definition, own the car. As such, you get to make the decision in how to dispense with it. From a softer angle, Sarah and her friend were close, and you opted to honor that closeness. I get the younger brother situation isn't great, but your, I presume, older brother doesn't get to tell you how to do things. If you want a brutal angle, your surviving family's annoyed they weren't able to profit from your daughter's death. Screw him. Didn't even turn up to the funeral either. Didn't even put in the same effort that the cliché greedy grandkids put in when their relatives are ill. I read it as they didn't visit on her birthday rather than the funeral. Still, absolutely not an a-hole. Not an a-hole. Did your brothers or your mother pay for any part of this car? Were they willing to buy it for your brother? If the answer is no, you were 100% not an a-hole. It was 100% your decision what to do with the item you bought. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.